silver like it was stones. Silver. He made it like it was stones in Jerusalem. It was that common. Yeah. So one is against the other. If you saw one in vanity of everything material because it is vanity. Then he says on the other hand, but anybody who has never had 2 pennies in his life may not agree with him. But after it says that he's a king and he made silver like so he's contradicted himself.
Well, I want to point out that silver, money, wealth, power is worthless unless you dedicate it all to Hashem. Then it becomes worth a great deal. So that same book, Kohelet, begins with that verse and ends, he goes into all the different philosophies and outlooks upon life, Weltanschauung, as you say, which human beings have followed and continue to follow today, and points out everything is vain, has no meaning, unless sof davar kol nishma, when you've heard everything, that's the end, when then you recognize et Elokim yirah et mitzvotov shemo ki zeh kol adam. You have to fear Hashem, have awe in front of Hashem. Yerushalayim means really developing a conscience. You've got to develop your conscience, which is the voice of God in the breast of every human being, and observe the commandments which God has given us, which also come through the conscience as well as through revelations. Because this is the whole of the human being, the meaning of man, That's it. And sometimes you only come to it by recognizing that everything in the world is like a vicious circle, leads you nowhere, except Yirat Shamayim. But now I tell you, I'd like to. What's your question?
I had a comment that he was virtuous in one aspect of money. His father David had collected a lot of money to build a temple, and unfortunately there was a huge famine in the land. So instead of taking the money to buy food for the people, he said, "No, it's going to be for the temple." So when he passed away, Shlomo didn't use any of that money to build the
no, to see something not so right here.
Not on. Working?
I think it's on, but...
Now, I'd like you first to look at the top of this page we have distributed. Good morning, everyone. Fixed up here. The top of the page, here there's the following quotation from the Kilat Yaakov. This is the father, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, Chaim Kanievsky, who was a brother-in-law of the Chazon Ish and was regarded as the greatest saint of the previous generation, and scholar also, of Yaakov Kamenetsky, of Yaakov Kanievsky, of Yaakov Kanievsky. So, here there's a quotation from what he said. But our subject has been the birth pangs of the Mashiach, which are strongest during this period, which is the period where we, unfortunately, every year of our existence, almost, we've had the worst persecutions. So it said like this: we are surely very near to the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, of a righteous Mashiach, because we've already passed the majority of the birth pangs of the Mashiach. And the main aspect, the Chavlei HaMashiach, were in the Second World War, where we had to go through unbelievable, terrifying suffering. So we're clearly in the time which is referred to as the ikvus of the Mashiach. We already see the tracks of the Mashiach. Those who can read the Gemara, would you look at, I put a piece of paper inside, near the end, of the way in which, at the end of Gemara Soita, there's a description of the ikvus of the Mashiach, epoch of the Mashiach, or better, Ekev means the tracks. It's not small Gemara, but I'm going to bring you directly in English. Where the Gemara says like this: the ikvus Mashiach, in the period we should receive the coming of the Mashiach, called the heels, and refers to the final period of exile, when Mashiach hasn't come yet, but signs of the imminent arrival will be discerned as those approaching footsteps are already audible. Or Eka Bahil means the lowest extremity of the human body, is a synonym for the end. It denotes the end of the period which will usher in the Mashiach. What's the first significant, we say negative experience? The first one is chutzpah. That means insolence will increase. In fact, chutzpah doesn't need translation. You'll find it in every American dictionary. Nearly all. Chutzpah is a special type of aggressiveness, insolence, which affected the Jewish people also.
Unmitigated gall.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that in American slang, it's actually a positive term.
Yeah, can I ask you please to wait with your comments and questions? Then, it's another aspect is the costs will soar. That means life will become very expensive. That means there will be a lot of poverty. And this is a reference, as we'll soon see, these qualities mentioned, they apply specifically to the life of the Jews in the land of Israel. And today, unfortunately, Israel has reached, I think, almost the world record of, according to ratio of population, of poverty in Israel. There's so many under the poverty line. That's what's happened. It says the vine will yield its fruit, but it will still be expensive. Why? Because people are engaged in drinking parties. Alcoholism spreads. Also, other drug addiction, the addictions will spread. You'll have a plentiful supply of grapes, but it won't be enough to fill the demand for wine and other substance abuse. There's the government will turn over to heresy. Some say, or it's a reference to world governments at large, many of them are not based upon service or belief in God, but more particularly, most commentators applies what's happened in the land of Israel. I mean, that Israel should set up a government on a declaration of independence where the name of God is more or less banished, or used to be, sometimes a bit better, but they did not allow it to come neither into the national anthem, they're not allowed to mention his name, although Americans and British don't mind, they took it from us, they mentioned the name of God in the national anthem, and also the Declaration of Independence, but Israel, they refused this. When people said, why can't we put in that God has given us the ability to put up a state with the help of God? Oh no. So that's heresy, it's taken over. And certainly if you bring an example, which I know from my son who was in the American Army, and when the president came to visit his battalion, where he was the chaplain, so my son made a blessing, also in English, and then the president said, yes, we believe this is the motto of the army, for my God and my country, and my God comes first. That's America. And here in Israel, because somebody wants to give his the head of the brigade, it wasn't a chaplain, it wasn't one of the rabbis, and he wanted to give them a message, you're going to battle, remember God. So he was criticized by members of the government for it. So that's Hamalchut Hafet Leminot. Vein Tochachat. And there's no people to rebuke others, or people don't take notice of it. No one will be able to reproach another, because all men will be iniquitous. When a sin is admonished, he'll retort, you're no better than I am. What, you think you're holier than I? You're just as bad as me, if not worse. And then it says, furthermore, that Ein Tochachat, some say means, there should be no bearers of truth. They'll be unable to demonstrate the falsity of heretical views. The next situation is that the Galil will be destroyed, northern part of the Galil, suffered a great deal, and the Gavlan will be desolate. So, it might mean that the name of the place, Mitzvah Gaval, it also said, they left out one of them here, Beit Tochacha, Beit Dvar Liznus. The erstwhile meeting place of sages were used for harlotry. That means, in the times of the Mishnah, this is from a writer from the times of the Mishnah, and also shortly afterwards, the study halls were built outside the towns. With the decline of Torah study, they fall into disuse. And the isolation makes them favored locations for illicit affairs. Sinners were so brazen, they'll openly designate places of immorality. And it's well known that, you shouldn't know about it, but for some people, there are areas in Tel Aviv or Yaffo known as Sin City. It was the image of Herzl in his Judenstaat, Jewish state. We should establish a state where there'll be also prostitution, there'll be crime, and there'll be theaters and circuses and so on. Otherwise, we should be like all the other nations are, in different areas where morality is flourishing, something's been underground. And the next thing is that what is this Galilee? These were places which, on the border of Eretz Israel, borderline in the north, Ulan, other areas. Then it says, Ba'anshi Agvul, so and the people who dwell on the borders of the land of Israel, they'll be driven out from the borders, and they'll go from one place to another, and won't be able to say, and they won't be helped. This is exactly what happened to Gush Katif. Gush Katif was one of the successful borderline levels of the Eretz Israel of Jews, and the border is always the most attacked area, and they were previously attacked, but they survived. They were strong, they were courageous. They were attacked by people from Gaza itself, and unfortunately they were driven out by force, even by the Israeli government. And since then they found really no settlement. That is 10 years since it took place, and they just had a big survey. You'll see in many of the papers they interviewed people who were driven out and they're trying to settle. They've not recovered. They're taken from place to place after they had a good source of livelihood. They worked very hard, the greenhouses and other things, and they had beautiful synagogue, places of learning, educational facilities, and they were very courageous. In fact, one of my cousins who was was one of the people there. They used to fast Monday and Thursday and prayed all the time it should be protected at the time when they're often attacked. But they held out in a strong way. They kept the enemy at bay. And he was hit by a bullet in the head. Baruch Hashem managed to recover. Went through a lot of suffering. But there's so many tragedies that have occurred. And the most fertile and productive area, and also productive in the population that was there, they're wandering around in different paths to try and settle down. It's exactly what it says here. This was declared almost 2,000 years ago. Then it says, and truth will be absent. The border will be attacked intermittently at various points, so that the inhabitants of the border towns are driven from town to town. See? No, then it says that the wisdom of scribes is a name, as you know, for Talmidei Chachamim, called Sofer, Ezra HaSofer. He wasn't just a scribe, he was the leading Talmid Chacham of his generation. And so their wisdom will go down, even if they learn a lot, but many of them don't have wisdom. Those who are from, who are afraid of sin, they want to do good. They're despised. People make fun of them. They mock at them. Why do you have to be people? They mock at the people who try to keep away from sin. But truth will be absent, because falsehood will rule. Both the falsehood of all the nations of the world against us, but also in our own area, too much falsehood amongst the Jewish people. And there are too many swindlers and people who deceive others. Young people will put to shame the elders. They'll make fun of the elders who generally have more wisdom. And even the elders will have to stand up in the presence of the minors, which is there's a huge generation gap, and the young people will demand honor from the older people. And then it says, a son will deride his father, and the daughter will stand up against the mother, daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. The enemy is a person from his own family. As we know, also in Israel, there's often an enormous amount of family quarrels, strife. Also, it's well known in the time of the kibbutzim, there were battles between the older ones and the younger ones. They fought against one another. The face of a generation is like the face of a dog. They'll become shameless, because dogs are known to be shameless. And the fifth generation are the affluent, who won't have other compassion, and are not give enough to those who are poor, like dogs that refuse to share the meat they have scavenged. Another explanation is that the leaders are basically demagogues. In other words, the face of a dog is that he looks with his face to his master, which way the master wants to go, just a look at his face, but the dog always wants to lead. The dog goes in front, even if it's on a leash sometimes, so he leads the way. So the dog leads the way, he just looks which way his master wants to go, and that's the way he goes. So the Pnei Hador are the leaders of generation. The leaders are not really leaders, and especially because of the type of the democracy we have. They always have to look, what do the people want? If the person wants to get leadership in Israel, and get the largest party, then he makes some sort of a survey, and he might see, well, the largest party, they are left-wing. Okay, so I'm going to put myself as a left-wing. That's going to be my platform. Yeah, because they're the largest groups. So I'm going to be on left wing. There might be another one and say, well, you know, the largest group might be even a bit religious or traditional. So therefore I'll also, on my platform, I'll be traditional. Or they'll find the largest group of right wing, and you know, they make their surveys and so on. So otherwise they don't have a view of their own. They follow the master. Who's the master? The people who elect them. So therefore, how can you be different to the dog? That's exactly what the dog does. He goes ahead. He's leading the master. But the truth is that the master is really the one giving directions. And he is the leader who gives direction. A son is not ashamed in front of his father. Upon whom can we rely? We can only rely upon our Father in heaven. You'll see this on many stickers. Stickers on cars and other places. 15 negative qualities that will take place before the Mashiach comes. And that's to do, what you mentioned yesterday, a generation that is totally collapsing, evil, with all sorts of negative aspects in its society. 15 qualities. So those you find here at the end of the Gemara. So, the truth is, when it says we should only rely upon our Father in heaven, there's an interesting comment that the person who learns this and reads it, and he sees it happening, then he's got to say to himself, what could save us? All the different so-called democratic, sociological, political, and other solutions for the rot. Says there's something rotten in this society. How can we remove it? When rebuke doesn't work, and when morality is being ignored, what can help? Having trust in Hashem. Got to have trust in Hashem. He's got to pray to Him and fulfill His will. That's one explanation. The other explanation is, when a person says, the only one we can rely upon is Hashem, that's what Chaim Volozhin says, our Talmud Gordon says, that in itself is also a bad quality. Why? Hashem wants us to change. And that's why you'll find that straight after this brayso, shortly afterwards, there's brought here in the Gemara the Mesilat Yesharim, the path of the just. Very juxtaposition is important, and the Rambam is extremely important. In the Gemara, which is like Gemara is always discussion of subjects that goes into the stream of the consciousness, they call it. In other words, things are put together on a deeper, even a subconscious level, rather than being strictly in the right order. The strict right order of all the principles of the Talmud are given in the Rambam. He created an edifice to transform the subconscious, semi-conscious stream of the inner wealth of the oral tradition. And that's why it's an oral tradition which is question, at least has to lead to a discussion and a debate. And that's why I just saw an email yesterday. Somebody sent an email, what's going on in Korea? Unbelievable. You know what's going on in Korea? South Korea. They're all studying the Talmud. Yeah. Why? Because they're very keen on education. They all want to become geniuses. And they read the analysis, why the 23% of the Nobel Prize winners are Jews is because of the Talmud. They want to understand what lies behind it. It's because of the Talmud. Either they learned it, or their parents or grandparents or great-grandparents learned it, went to their genes, the power of being a genius, to have higher IQ than can be achieved anywhere else. they found out, they did research, found it comes from the Talmud. And therefore, it's spreading like wildfire. And in South Korea, first in Japan it spread as well. So now I also understand that I wrote certain articles in the Noachide Code, and someone, I don't know what, someone sent me a few translations, a few languages, including Korean. In any case, it says straight after this passage in the Gemara, it brings the Path of the Just. Now, the Path of the Just is a book developed by one of the greatest saints and also one of the greatest Kabbalists of recent time, Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. But he based it on the Talmud. Well, the Talmud says, it says in the Chumash, when you go into the battle, whether it's the battle, in fact, the battle with enemies want to kill you, and when you're going in the battle of life also, we all have to struggle in different ways. V'nishmata mikol davar. You've got to keep yourself away from every evil matter. If you try and keep yourself away from every evil matter, you'll be able to overcome and reach a high level in the struggle of life. And then there are almost 15 steps to reach from the beginning of being careful what you do and studying Torah, different levels of saintliness until you even come to Ruach HaKodesh. That comes straight after here. In other words, if you see that the society is crumbling and there's so many negative elements around, what you have to do, you have to say to her, don't just rely upon Hashem, no. You've got to learn Musa. You've got to learn ethical instruction. You've got to strive to reach saintliness, which is the real purpose of Torah. And then you've got to work hard, okay? But regard it as a challenge. You're fortunate enough to be able to look what it says in the written Torah and to have heard in ancient times and more recent times also to read in all the books of the oral tradition. So go and concentrate upon Musa, and that will solve the problem. Otherwise, build up saintliness. Okay, it wasn't easy for Avraham Avinu when he began this whole mission to bring blessing to the world by being a partner with Hashem. So sometimes we're put in such a situation as today. Might be a small group, but that small group can save the world. So that's it. So therefore, Chaim Rosh said, don't say that you can only rely upon Hashem. Hashem wants you to be his partner. So therefore, go and teach the world the mitzvot we're given. Don't be false, because all part of the falsehood is that people put on religions of camouflage. Inside, they want to go and become very rich and very powerful. So outside, you know, they dress themselves as a big Rebbe who can make miracles and all sorts of things they put on. But inside, they're rotten, and they're spreading rottenness. So that's a part of the difficulties, which we have to try to remove. As we explained yesterday or the day before, concerning two levels of the Brit: the external Brit and the inner Brit. So now, we spoke here. Before I go on with the next piece, perhaps you've got any questions.
This is from Simcha Brunim of Pascha.
Yeah.
It's more is like that. It says there will come a time before the arrival of the Redeemer when there will be scholars without Torah, Hasidim without piety, nobles without money, summer without heat, and winter without cold, and crops will grow without rain, irrigation. In other words, there will be a generation of externally, but which lacks the inner content even in their physical world.
Very good.
So what's the question? Is that
No, it's a statement. It's by Simcha of Persach here.
He is really basing it on all these statements in the Gemara. Yeah.
I was going to actually say a few comments. One, the conflict between the elderly and the younger is actually more personified in America between baby boomers, who are now the elderly, who used to fight against the elderly, and the younger generations who consider them hypocrites. And you have also in the countries like Korea and China where they're studying the Talmud, they should be careful because we Jews are freedom-loving people and they're very authoritarian societies, and the Talmud might start, making the people want more freedom.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was in an old pond when I first came.
Yes.
French.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So they had two missionaries, a man and a wife from South Korea. That was their job. Then they had a young woman who wasn't married from Germany, and a woman from Canada. She was also a missionary. I don't know where she converted or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I want to. I've given you each a sheet. You should follow this sheet. Those who follow a bit of Hebrew to see the amazing prophecies going back again almost 2,000 years. And these are traditions preserved in the name of Rabbi Ishmael, who lived at the same time as Rabbi Akiva. And Ishmael, because of his namesake, I suppose he was keen to know all the traditions. It says Ishmael in the end of times will do teshuvah. You know what will happen soon. The Mashiach will come, what will happen? Many of them will do teshuvah. But he brings there 15 things. Now, must I say, these negative qualities are 15. And now there are also 15 aspects which will come from the Bnei Ishmael. Bnei Ishmael is a reference to the Muslim peoples. This is stated long before Islam came into the world. But there was already a prophecy, Bnei Ishmael, this is the Christians. They're going to take over a good part of the world. As is already hinted at in the book of Bereshit. So it says there are 15 things they're going to do, B'achrit hayamim. And Achrit hayamim is our time. And what are they? Number one, they will go and measure out the land of Israel with ropes. Now, ropes are also used already in the Bible, in the Tanakh, as ways of delineating borders. So they'll go and decide what are given the borders of their kingdom, of their nation, of their government. And they'll try to make borders and take as much area as possible from Eretz Israel. And they'll say, the truth is they want the whole land, but the nations won't let them, or at least they want the whole area from 1967. In 1948, when the allocation, what was to be, there weren't Palestinians then all the Muslims belonged to Jordan primarily, or to or Lebanon, or different areas that border upon the land of Israel, but primarily both the area today known as Israel, as well as the area which is called Palestine, and Transjordan, the other side of the Jordan, was really part of Jordan, the whole of it. And those Muslims who lived in the land of Israel, the land of Eretz Israel, called Palestine at the time, they were Jordanian citizens. So then there was by the League of Nations, and afterwards given over as a mandate to Great Britain to sort out who's going to get what. So the land was partitioned in a certain way, and Israel accepted the cutting down of the area which we know as Eretz Israel. They objected, but they accepted it. But the Arabs didn't accept it. The Arabs went against and when the state was established according to the borders given by the British mandate, the Arabs attacked us. And at that time the Jews were very weak, didn't really have armies. The small Jewish brigade came from abroad. But as you know, 1948, the terrible battles. And in the end, there was an armistice agreed, and we came to the 1948 borders. That's a few years later I came here also. In the years when those borders were there, and you couldn't go to the Kotel. It was all part of belonged to Jordan. Here in Yerushalayim, in many areas you would see the Jordanian legionaries aim with their guns where you were. It wasn't easy. The closest place you go to Har Zion, that was in our area. And from there you could see a little bit the old city. That was the situation till then there were till there came the 6-Day War. Till the 6-Day War, we managed to get better borders. But the 1967 borderline was one which gave the Arabs enormous abilities to prepare destruction of the Jewish state. Then came the 6-Day War. We got new borders. And that's a great deal. This is what it says here. The first thing is the Muslims want to take over as much of the area as possible. Then it says, how do they do it? They make graveyards, which are holy places for the Jews. They like to make them places for pasturing the sheep and for putting rubbish there, in order to strengthen their power over the land. And that's what's happened. They take over, they've taken, different ways, but they took over, for example, the place of Shechem. In the Middle Ages, they took over the area of the Kotel and made it a rubbish dump, because they didn't want the Jews to come there. And the truth is, even today, that they've taken over the place of the Mikdash in Har Moriah, but they're throwing in the rubbish dump any artifacts that demonstrate a Jewish presence. They won't even deny that there was ever a temple there. And even today, to find artifacts, in fact, I saw an advert, if anyone wants to go into it, that they're giving opportunities for people to help in excavating. They have to excavate where the rubbish was thrown out from the excavations that the Muslim did on the Temple Mount. And amongst that rubbish, there are many artifacts which are from the period of the first and second temple. And they found all sorts of things there. Because the Muslims, they're trying to destroy their presence on the Mount. They say this is, they say this is the place, as we say, the place for Ishmael, it's a holy place for the Muslims, not for the Jews. Then that's the second thing they do. The third thing is they make special measurements upon what's going on the top of the mountain. And if the mountain, they try to possess mountaintops which are strategic points to occupy in order to rule the land. But from mountains you can more easily, it doesn't just mean mountains, it means they want to get rulership over any strategic point from which they can destroy the Jews. Also, in order to gain power, they use falsehood. They tell all sorts of lies. For example, today we see they're telling lies about what happened. They're teaching their children that Israel never existed and doesn't exist. Their maps don't show it. It's all Palestine, it only belongs to them. And they're rewriting history on the basis of lies. And that's going around the whole Muslim world. And Muslims, not only Muslims in our area, Muslims everywhere. And they're being nurtured and distortion. Just like we see the peace partner, Abu Mazen, has got a doctorate. A doctorate is to prove there never was a Holocaust. I mean, they write the negation of the Holocaust, which occurred so recently, and which there are so many records. They keep on increasing. And they're living witnesses, a few living witnesses, and all the other records they've got, and the photos and everything. What to go and... Well, they say we don't take notice. This is all false. They even made in Iran also the same thing. They rewrite history. I mean, you go into MS and they work on hiding the truth. And also, that's the next one, Israel, and unfortunately, this is also having influence upon Jews. Jews also. There are even Jews today who deny the Holocaust or shake hands with those who deny the Holocaust. And the Jews today who are BDS, and I think they're leaders in boycotting Israel, in spreading the false propaganda given by the Muslims, and there are many Jews involved in it as well, because they've also been brain contaminated. Another thing is, the true Chok goes away from Am Yisrael. Israel, that the people of Israel have become so assimilated to the ways of the non-Jews, also that we don't have such a merit to be in the land, because most of the Jews, or many of them, they go after the law system and also the values of the nations, and they don't follow the true Chok of Yisrael. Could also include even the Supreme Court of Israel does not follow frequently Jewish principles of law. Even laws that have to do with establishing a moral society. And they have laws, for example, against bribery, but on the other hand, they have laws that support bribery in the strongest manner. The Supreme Court judges themselves are bribed frequently. How can you have a Supreme Court of judges where they have close relatives? And how can you have a Supreme Court of judges where the judges themselves, they decide who's going to come into the courts, and each one's got their own bias concerning that, and they're going to create a state witness who is bribed to go and give testimony, to accuse and to reveal crimes of the others. Then it's also a time when, unfortunately, sinfulness grows, because the people of Israel, many of them, don't get any Torah value education, and therefore the generation goes down and down. Yeridat HaTorah. We're not. Well, there's a small group, but many Jews, they're not taught anything about Jewish values for most of their life. Then Shnit Ulat Katzemet, this unusual idiom. The smallest thread is the silk. The silk comes from the small silk one. And the strongest thread and ropes are created from wool, thick ones. So it says, this is the concept of what it says, chutz b'yazke, that arrogance, people, it says, Hashem opens up for every person a chutz shel chesed. But the chutzpah becomes so strong, people think they're so important they become so arrogant, and this arrogance brings about their negative attitude towards others. And then it says the paper and the pen are killed, which means all agreements which are sealed, signed, have no significance. They're not worth the paper on which they're written. Well, no, doesn't mean it. Yeah, the Oslo Pact means nothing to the Muslim. The Muslims have a principle that whatever agreements are made, if they don't fit in with their concepts, they can nullify it whenever they want. And then it says the currency will also no longer have any significance, lose their value. There's too much inflation, deflation. And then the Muslims, they will build up the ruined cities and settle in them, and they'll also use them to go and attack, and they'll take over different sections of the land of Israel. And then they'll go and build up their temple on the place where our temple used to stand. And this was written 1,000 years before the Sultan built the mosque. It's written it. It says they're going to build a temple on the mount, on the Temple Mount. They'll build their temple. And then what will they do? The brothers of the Muslims, they're joined together to become like one. That means there'll be different leaders of different Muslim groups. Each one's got slightly different belief and policy, but they'll all join together to go and take over the whole of the land of Israel, including Jerusalem, and culminating with Temple Mount. But at that time, in their days, that is when the Ben David will grow. As it says, Daniel, in their days, then the Melech HaMashiach will arise from this evil will come over the land. There was already hint also in Bereshit. That means that Ishmael will try to rule over everything. And the culmination of the rulership will to take over the land of Israel and Yerushalayim, totally. But it says, on the Aleihem Ben David Smach, on the basis of this lowest point, this is the lowest point, you can say the most difficult pangs of the Chavri Mashiach will bring the Mashiach. So these negative qualities, 50 negative qualities, correspond to the 15 qualities of inner evil which are in the Gemara in Sota. And the concept of 15 is a deep one, which is connected with the 15 Shir HaMalot. You know, at the end of Tehillim, there are 15 songs of the steps. Which steps?
Steps
In the Haggadah, 15 steps.
There were 15 steps in the Holy Temple, going from between the Ezra Nashim and the Ezra Yisrael. It goes between the place where the women stood, women's courtyard, and the men's courtyard, 15 steps. And the Leviim used to sing different songs on those steps. And what's the if you look at the Shir HaMalot are all of them connected with how we go through a lot of difficulties in climbing the mountain that leads to Hashem. Our challenge, mi alivar Hashem. Hashem, when he said, you've got to become my people, it's not easy. It's the concept why is Beit HaMikdash above every place of Yerushalayim? And Yerushalayim is in Tanakh referred to always the highest place in the world. And whenever somebody leaves Yerushalayim, he goes down. When he comes to Eretz Yisrael, he's an Oleh. And when he goes from Israel to go and climb Mount Everest, he's a Yored, it's going down. Yeah? Even if he started in the Yam HaMelach, yeah? And now wants to climb from Yam HaMelach, from the lowest point in the world, which is in Eretz Yisrael. And he wants to make a trip from there to the Himalayas and climb Mount Everest. He's called a Yored. It's going down. Because spiritually speaking, the Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, the Beit represent how we can grow upwards and come nearer to Hashem. This is the heart of Hashem. And that's the 15 steps in the Shir HaMalot all express that. Because you find the Shir HaMalot, all of them have to do with in trouble. I want to look at the mountains. How you, where's my help going to come from? How you have to always look upwards and work hard at each step to go upwards. So that is why it's also connected even with the smallest name of Hashem, the Yud and the Hey. But I'll explain a bit more next year. So keep these sheets.
Right.
Keep these sheets because the deep explanation of this is given here in short on this sheet.
Oh, Rabbi, I was going to say I forgot to say was that this time could be considered one of the greatest challenges that we ever faced, and it's only during this time that it can become great. Also,
keep the sheets. If you don't keep them, give them back to me.
Also, the Israeli Supreme Court is despised.